He's known as the biggest cycling advocate on City Council. Kitchissippi's Jeff Leiper has worked as a journalist, for a standard-setting organization, for a non-governmental agency, all jobs that serve the public. And he was one of only two candidates to defeat a sitting councillor in the 2014 election. Since then, he's made public transit, cycling, and urban intensification, growing up rather than out, his main priorities. I caught up with Leiper at a popular cafe in his ward.
The thrust of my career to date has been around service and contribution, with a bit of a subset as well in communications. Whether it was at the CRTC, whether it was as a journalist working for the trade press, working with that NGO ICTC. Communications has always been something that I have been focused on, and that frankly has served me well since I got elected in October 2014. It's a huge transformation. Residents are not comfortable with the direction in which things are going. For many years now, residents have felt that they don't have a lot of A, understanding of why it's happening, and B, opportunity to influence it. So in the last election, I and my campaign team absolutely were the beneficiaries of an electorate that was feeling disenfranchised, feeling as if they didn't know what was going on, and feeling as if they didn't have a voice. Service is very important to me. I think one of the messages that I've had for the community ever since I got elected 3.5 years ago is we are all better off when people do service of some sort. If we sit back and we expect the government to take care of us, if we expect that somebody else is going to take on advocacy roles, nothing changes. Positive outcomes don't get achieved if people are very insular.
How do you find the interaction at council? I mean, sometimes I know I've wanted to just nod off. How do you avoid that sort of thing when you get to a subject that is very routine, very dull? How do you keep your interest alive?
Right now it's interesting because a lot of people are thinking about running for city council, running for mayor. And one of the pieces of advice that I have for them is that if they're going to be credible, they need to get into the weeds. The city is a massively complicated place. We have very specific powers that are given to us by the province. Legislation is in silos. The budget is constructed of all these different revenue streams. It's remarkably complicated. The discussions around the council table will often seem to be very in the weeds, and people will suspect that we've lost sight of the bigger picture. But what keeps me interested and awake during those council meetings at which we're talking about very legalistic, very process-driven considerations is that if we get those right, the bigger quality of life issues, the bigger sustainability issues for the city depend on that.
You're a big transportation advocate, public transit advocate. One of the methods that you prefer is cycling, of course, even in the winter. And I honor those people who want to ride a bicycle in the winter because I certainly would not. Are we doing enough in the city to provide services for cyclists, or are we at least on the right path?
I think we are on the right path. We're not at the point yet where somebody can cycle from, anywhere, say, within the Greenbelt, downtown, on safe, segregated cycling infrastructure. But we're on that path. 25 years ago, I want to say, I was living in Orleans, 10th line in Innis, and I was commuting every day to a job that I had at the Museum of Nature. I think it was a camp counselor. And, I was one of a very small group of people being able to do that. You rode entirely on the streets, entirely mixed with traffic. Today, in Hintonburg, roughly a quarter of my trip is on relatively low volume, safe cycling streets. And then I'm right into the pathway system. So there's a great multi-use path along Albert. There's a dedicated cycling connection to Laurier. Safe cycling infrastructure down Laurier, down O'Connor, in front of City Hall. I can make a lot of my trip today on safe, winter maintained, which is important, segregated cycling infrastructure. It's not enough that a big mass of people are going to start doing it tomorrow. But as we continue to build it out with the resources that we have, I expect that we'll see more and more people adopting cycling as a preferred way to get around. even in winter. We know that the city is not going to be sustainable if we continue to exacerbate urban sprawl through the next couple of decades. We have to grow up and not out. The problem we've had is that while we've made that fundamental change towards the most recent thinking about how to plan for a sustainable city, it's a bit Wild West sometimes. Intensification good, non-intensification bad. There's a gray area in between. Does every tower that gets built need to be 30 or 40 stories in order to accomplish our intensification goals? Maybe as a council, we should be saying no to more things than we are. That's going to be a critical planning challenge moving forward. The other big question is that sustainable transportation piece. The city is becoming very congested. We're still not Toronto.
Yeah.
Right. But the city is absolutely becoming more congested coming in from the south end. We haven't made the leap yet into real action in our policies and plans on trying to give people alternatives to private motor vehicle commuting. Our systems are still planned around, our defaults are still come down to facilitating private vehicle transportation. Getting our mass rapid transit up and running and getting it to where people live is going to be a key challenge for a long time to come. It really is all-consuming. And I really can't imagine sometimes doing it beyond one more term. There are some things that I want to make sure continue. Some commitments that I've made that I want to see followed through on in the next term of council. I don't see myself running for mayor. I don't certainly see myself running for elected office in another level of government. Certainly, I would love to get back. I trained as a journalist. One of the things I really enjoy about the job is that some days I treat it like a journalist might treat their job. I love telling the stories. I love taking the pictures of the residents of the ward and then distributing those. I love putting in my newsletter and celebrating the successes that people have had.
Councillor Jeff Leiper, thanks for having coffee with us today.
Entirely my pleasure. Thank you so much.